Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. And today I was doing a little bit of math, and since we started this show, we've had 50 guests, but this guest is here for the third time. Jake Day, does that count?
I thought it was about 47 of those times, but my math is maybe not quite up to par.
I know it feels like 47 times when you're here.
But I like spending time with you, Greg.
Now, you're in the news lately. Why are you in the news?
So I am running for mayor. I'm in a hotly contested race against nobody. But I'm running for mayor of the city of Salisbury, my hometown, and I've been serving the city for about 2.5 years as council president, and I'm looking forward to taking over the reins, stepping into the leadership role of mayor.
Now, this is part of our continuing series of interviews with city council candidates and the one candidate for mayor. And yeah, this is an unheard of situation. I don't really remember a time when anyone who was running for mayor was unchallenged. Certainly not someone who was running for the first time.
Well, it hasn't happened in Salisbury, but looking at other strong mayor cities, cities with the same form of government that we have, it is exceedingly rare. So it's not only rare for Salisbury, but it's rare in other cities as well.
Right. Now, how do you do this without, now some people have said you've had a 6-month coronation. Everyone has known you're going to be the mayor for a long time. How do you pull this off without seeming kind of cocky about it all?
Well, I think everyone knew that I think it was not a well-kept secret that I was going to run, that I was interested in running. But I don't know that, frankly, until the filing deadline, I didn't know what others were going to do. I anticipated having an opponent in the race, so I anticipated having more than one opponent in the race. I'm sure 4 years from now I will. I look forward to that. I look forward to saying what my vision for the city of Salisbury is and how I will implement it. I think I hope I've proven over the last few years, and I think I've proven that I can accomplish what we set out to accomplish, that I can get things done and bring people together. So I intend to prove that over the coming 4 years, and intend to prove that if somebody runs against me in the future.
Okay, so what's your vision?
Yeah, so Salisbury will be a vibrant city that is competitive with similar sized cities around the country and even larger cities. We are already a young, diverse, and city getting better educated, getting more diverse, and getting younger in terms of our median age. So we're a city that has potential for growth. The only cities that are growing in America, these cities that are growing, are the ones that are young, and that's the same with national. If you look at the median age in Europe or Japan or Russia, you look at declining populations, whereas you look at the young places in the world, and those are the places that are growing. It goes to reason that stands to reason that we are a place that is positioned well for growth. Now, those cities that are succeeding that I want to compete against, those cities are also investing in the right things. They're taking the long-term view, not the feel-good, immediate, gratification view. They are taking the long-term view and investing, and have invested in quality of life, meaning they're taking care of their people, and that's what I want to accomplish here.
So you're seen as a bricks and mortar guy. You love to talk about downtown. How are you feeling about all that downtown?
Here's why I love to talk about downtown. Let's talk about that for a minute. I love to talk about downtown not because it is the geographic place of the city that I care about most or love most. I care about our neighborhoods. I care about our industrial parks. I care about our commercial districts. I care about our recreational areas, our park. I care about all of them equally, especially our neighborhoods, because what people experience in their backyards, I think, drives how they feel about our city. That being said, the only cases where you see successful growing cities are the cases where they've successfully revitalized their core. So if we don't invest in that, and if we don't get our game right with respect to downtown, we are not going to grow. It is that simple. And we are not going to see a thriving economy. We are not going to see jobs come back. We are not going to see economic development. We are not going to see rising wages. That is just a simple fact. Now, for anyone to conflate that with let's make our jobs plan retail jobs. That's a mistake, and that person or those people don't understand what we're talking about, and they don't understand the end game. But I think it's really critical to understand that getting that core cultural place, that place where activity happens and that is a community venue in essence, getting that right is absolutely fundamental. Now, how do I feel about it? You look at the last 2.5 years. There's been more real estate activity, more investment in ground floor retail and restaurants than at any point in our history, and certainly since the 50s and 60s, where that was probably the heyday of downtown. I think most would agree. Before there was a decline as a result of suburban sprawl. And remember, this is not unique.
Right.
We are not a unique place in that respect. In that respect, we are just like every other place in America. We suffered the same consequences of sprawl and the same consequences of disinvesting in our core. And we fought against the economic tide. And the economic tide is, if you're at the center, you're a better position for economic sustainability and growth. And if you are on the periphery, you are not. And no amount of changes to transportation, highways, the automobile will change those dynamics ultimately. In fact, what we're seeing nationwide is a reinvestment in the core of cities, and again, the successful ones.
Now, there's about to be a redevelopment in downtown. What am I going to see a year from now down there?
No change.
Okay.
No change a year from now. I don't anticipate.
How long is
any
this going to
change.
take?
Right. So we have to go to settlement first on those properties, and once we do,
Well, I was thinking the Main Street thing.
oh, the Main Street. You're going to
Yeah.
you're going to see some significant
Right.
changes on Main
What
Street.
am I going to
thought you
see
were
a year
talking-
from now?
Yeah, so that's a public investment, and that's essentially rolling out the red carpet for our development and business community, seeking reinvestment from the private sector by getting it right on the public side of the house. The public space that the city is responsible for, and a lot of people don't, I think, understand or appreciate that, is the street. The street is our primary public space. We've got to take care of it. We got to make it look good. And the great cities in America, the places that you go to and say, "Oh, I wish we looked like that," they have rolled out the red carpet. They've made their streets nice.
Right.
And that doesn't mean the paving necessarily. In fact, that's secondary. But it does mean getting the sidewalk condition right, getting bike lanes right. In some cases, getting paving right. I mean, you certainly don't want torn up streets. But also getting the street trees and signage and lighting and all of that right. You want to make that your showcase. So what you're going to see within months, not within a year, but within months, is a construction on Main Street in downtown Salisbury from Route 13 to Division Street. And over the span of the next year, you're going to see construction there that includes significant digging, the placement of water and sewer pipes, new water and sewer pipes to replace the over 100-year-old pipes that are there.
Right.
You're going to see new stormwater management to address some of the flooding in downtown. You're going to see 1 gigabit fiber laid in the street and connected to every single building down Main Street. The purpose of that is to say, the FCC chairman called for several months ago, almost a year ago, called for at least one city in every state to have gigabit fiber laid in their street, and to be the gigabit city for that state. We're going to be the first ones. Baltimore just announced they're going to try to do this too. Now they're behind the curve. We're going to be ahead of Baltimore, and I'm very proud of that.
They're doing it with Google, but you're doing it with Maryland Broadband.
Right. Which is a Maryland nonprofit, but created through the legislature, and that's our partner. And that's fantastic that they're partnering with Google. And we'd love to have Google here, obviously, but we can do it faster and we can do it now because it actually stubs out at the end of Main Street. So we're going to continue it down Main Street.
Right.
It's used for government institutional purposes. It actually runs to Long Avenue, where the former Board of Education building was, to provide them with high-speed fiber access, and it runs to Salisbury University as well. So you're going to see that. You're going to see a construction site for almost a year on that portion of Main Street. Now, the businesses will still be open, the street will still be open, all of it at times, portions of it at others. But you will always have access to the businesses on the street. But it won't be convenient. It will be a little bit cumbersome, but you're going to see significant improvement. At the end of that 1 year period, or at the end of that 10-month period, you're going to see a new streetscape, which will consist of 8-foot sidewalks. Will consist of about 4.5-foot planted area with street trees. That'll also have lights and signage, wayfinding branded to Salisbury. We're
Right.
actually going to have public input in the branding
Right.
around this. And then we're going to see benches and recycling bins. And then you're also going to see our old quarter meters disappear. We're going to go to smart meters, district smart meters, where you can pay by phone. You can update it by phone. You don't have to go out, in the middle of your lunch
Right.
and stuff quarters in the meter anymore. And the purpose of that is to make it more convenient. We recognize that on-street parking is a commodity that you've got to price and you've got to manage, so that people don't just sit in it all day and nobody can find a parking spot to go into one of the restaurants. But that said, we want to make it more convenient for people. So you're going to see more attractive areas. You're going to see more outdoor seating. There will be more on-street parking. We're going to see an addition of almost 50 spaces to Main Street. You'll see first that portion, then the following year the plaza area, the West Main Street portion, and then the government office building plaza and Division Street.
What's going to happen with the plaza ultimately?
So you'll see a dedicated bike lane added to the plaza. You'll see what I just described, the condition I just described, and one lane of traffic heading in the opposite direction. So
it'll come from the west side
it'll come
and go
from the
east.
west side. So where we've seen the majority of development for the last 25 years in the Salisbury area in Wycomico County, it was the west side primarily. And they are greeted as they come into town with a do not enter sign
Right.
in downtown.
Right.
Don't come in. Go around, find your way in.
Right.
So now they're going to be greeted with a welcoming, come right down your Main Street. So that's what we intend to provide.
And it seems like for commuter traffic, that would make sense, especially in the morning, that if you're going to get downtown. Yeah.
I think it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. And we really wanted to consider and do 2 lanes of traffic, but it would have meant inconveniencing the pedestrian, making it really difficult to walk down the sidewalk.
Right.
A very, very narrow, uncomfortable sidewalk. And we wouldn't have been able to do what we needed to do. So our engineers couldn't fit
Right.
dual directional traffic onto the western portion of Main Street, as much as we wanted that to happen.
Right. So I ask you these questions because I love to see you get excited about urban development. So I want people to see how you react to that.
It's important. It's important. It's where our economy is going to thrive, because we're going to say to people that the housing choices that you have wanted to make for a long time, that people are making everywhere else in the country, that is growing, everywhere that is getting economic development and growth and jobs. They're providing those housing choices. They're providing those physical choices, those shopping choices. We haven't yet, but we're about to. So we're
Right.
going to be competitive.
Now,
And it'll take years.
Now, in this program, we've interviewed 13 of the 14 city council candidates. You're our last interview.
Okay.
And I've been stunned at one of the consistencies in these interviews. And these are people talking about creating jobs. These are city council candidates who say the city needs to do more to create jobs, which historically I've never heard that from candidates at that level. It's more of a state issue or a federal issue. You rarely hear job creation being a local issue. So are you hearing the same thing on jobs?
Yeah, I am. And I'm with them. I am with them on that. And how we get there, I think, again, has to be about not just appeasing and satisfying the immediate urge,
Right.
but creating the conditions to succeed for the long term. I think in this city we have suffered for a long time from a fear about talking too much about downtown. If you look back, I've gotten the advice before, even before I ran, just don't talk about downtown. It's, it hasn't worked. It's a hot potato.
It's money in a rat hole is what people would try to
sure.
see. Yeah.
And that's just because people don't understand how to achieve success.
Right.
And people want immediate gratification.
Right.
Which I think we've actually done a pretty good job of providing some short, small successes in the near term over the last 2 years, which is a very short period of time to see those successes. But I think that had a lot to do with attitude in the city, positivity, being helpful, being an easy place to do business with. But that's just a beginning, because truly, to transform an economy, it's going to take 20 or 30 years. And if people want faster results, they're going to have to recognize that simultaneously we have to work on the long-term thing. So it's not an either or. And I'm going to have to make sure that our city council, whoever's on it, understands that it is not an either or. When we make a choice to invest in downtown, we are not making a choice not to invest in job growth. we're making a choice to invest in long-term job growth. Simultaneously, I think we can do things to make it more convenient to those who want to grow their businesses today. Now, we are also in a state that has traditionally been cumbersome to do business compared to our neighbors. Delaware and Virginia have been very easy to work with. They've been very convenient. They have been very accessible. Their government leaders have been very accessible. But again, I think that's an instance where the mayor has an opportunity to be competitive. I think I can compete with leaders in Delaware and leaders in Virginia in terms of how accessible, how friendly, how ready to go, and how well we understand economic development and job growth.
Right, and that makes sense because you need the right ambassador out there.
Yes.
I kind of grew up at Harry Kelly's knee, the guy who was the mayor of Ocean City for a long time, and he did not want to get involved in the administration of the city. He wanted to go out there and promote Ocean City.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I am interested in the administration of the city, however. Again, there's a city that is not a strong mayor city. There's a weak mayor city where the mayor is.
It was a strong mayor city at the time.
Oh, okay. It was. Okay.
But because of his ineptitude in terms of, and I'm his biggest fan. I can say that they had to implement a city manager.
I don't know the man. I can't speak. I can't speak to that. But I will say, in Salisbury, as the chief executive of the city, I'm very interested in the management of the city. I hope not to the chagrin of city employees. I think we've got a great team. I've had the good fortune to begin to use the last few weeks and months to prepare and get to know the team. And look, I've known them for a couple of years, but I haven't been involved, in city government for a decade or more. I mean, some of these people have worked for the city for 25, 26, 27 years.
Right.
So I'm excited to motivate them. I'm excited to inspire them. I'm excited to help empower them to do better for the city with less. We have to be frugal. Even if we're in a time of economic growth and we see rising revenue for the city, I think we have to be careful. We have to be frugal with our money, and we have to also be results driven. I am very, very interested in outcomes, and I don't want to say I don't care about how we get there and process. I care a lot about process, but I don't want to be dictatorial about how we get there. I want to be creative. I want to be inventive. I want to be nimble. I want us to respond to the data. I want us to track where we are on the most important things at all times, and to recognize that we can be nimble enough to change direction if we need to, if what we're doing doesn't work. The old adage, well, we've always done it that way, does not and will not fly with me.
Right.
It just can't.
Right.
It can't. Results are what matters.
Now, you're going to be a full-time mayor. We've had mayors, the job is a full-time job, but we've had mayors do it based on their own personalities. Our current mayor has always had a second job, basically. But you're going to be the mayor.
Yes.
Now, that job only pays $30,000, $35,000?
$25,000.
$25,000. And at the time, when they gave that to Paul Martin, people were like, $25,000? That's 30 years ago now.
Yeah, so I was 3. So when we set that salary, I was 3 years old. And I believe we haven't changed the council salaries either. They've been $10,000, and the council president $12,000. So I'm looking forward to a whopping doubling in my salary from council president. It isn't enough, and it isn't much. And as I've told people before, it's the worst financial decision I ever made, but it's the best personal development decision I ever made. I feel that I was born ready and wanting this job. I care about the city more than anything. I am excited about it. I love it. I want to do it. It's going to take 24 hours a day. It's going to take every minute, and it's going to take dedication, full-time dedication to the job. Now, that being said, I recognize that we may need to address that at some point. It just won't be during my time as mayor. Whether I'm mayor for 4 years or 16 years, I'm not going to look for a raise. I'm not interested in it, so I'm going to have to make it work. My lovely, beautiful wife works. Not right now. She's home with our 2-month-old as of yesterday,
2 months,
baby
yes.
girl.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's home with Lily.
The photos I see on social networking, the child looks to be a year old already.
She is beautiful, and she's growing.
She's got a sophisticated look about her.
And she is smiling,
Yeah.
which is the coolest thing ever. I didn't realize how great that would be.
Isn't it amazing how it can melt your whole brain?
Waking up and looking over her crib and seeing her light up when
Yeah.
you look at her. It's the best thing
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Now that said, Liz works. She's a teacher in Wycomico County,
Right.
so she will eventually go back to school and teach. So we're a 2 salary household and 3 salary. I mean, my Army pay is there as well. So we'll be fine. We won't be living high on the hog, but we'll be fine, and that's okay. Because again, I believe this job is a full-time job, and I ran for it fully knowing what the salary was, and that's what it'll be as long as I'm there. Now, if I can set it up to be more tied to the job and the duties for my successor when that time comes, whenever that is, and I don't know exactly how we would do that. I think that's the right decision. I think it should be, not the highest paid position in the city. In fact, I'm a believer in the leaders, and this comes from the military, the leaders eat last mentality. So I don't, I'm proud to be the lowest paid employee in the city, and that's fine. But I think it should be better compensated so that someone could do it full time and not have to worry about their own personal welfare. That said, I'm driving forward. It doesn't bother me one bit.
A lot of changes in the county, and I've always been concerned that the city and the county don't work close enough together. How are you going to work with the county?
I think that's a fair concern because I think it's important. Now, when you go to places like Frederick and Asheville and Ithaca and Greenville, these places that are thriving, that are absolutely thriving, and you talk to them about their relationship with the county, it's, oh, we can't work with the county, and then you talk to the county, oh, we can't work with the city. But on the outside, you see economic growth, and that's what matters. So as much as it matters, let's recognize it is less a hindrance to progress than people think it is, because I see other places that are thriving and they don't get along necessarily. Now, it's incredibly important, however, that in this community, I think we get along so that we have a tightly knit, positive, community pointed in the same direction. So how will I work with the county? I'm going to work well with them. I'm going to work positively. I don't know any other way. I haven't worked with anybody in any different way. I'm not an adversarial person. I know what I need to do for the city, and that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully others are convinced and can understand whether they're on, a leader in the county or the state or wherever. I know what we need to do for Salisbury, and Salisbury needs leadership, and I intend to be that leader, and that's where we're going to go. But I do also intend to work better with the county. We've got a list of issues that we need to address: fire service agreement, tax differential, minor issues as well. Those are some of the big ones, but minor issues as well. Water and sewer service annexation.
Well, here's a little one that I see.
But I'm going to work on those things. We're going to work closely, and I'm going to work with County Executive Culver and the County Council on those things.
This is like the most minor one in the world, but I see this as something that could be symbolic of the whole thing. In terms of the Main Street redevelopment, there are too many trees on the courthouse grounds. So I think for the betterment of the city, they need to take some of these trees down so we can see the courthouse again. But I know the county will never do that.
Well, the county courthouse is beautiful.
Right.
I mean, it is gorgeous. I was up with a fundraiser yesterday in the not for me, but League of Conservation Voters with all our delegates and senators up in the 7th floor of the Old Plaza Hotel,
right.
The old Wycomico Hotel,
yeah.
One Plaza East, looking over. And I mean, it's first of all, the views of downtown Salisbury are gorgeous. Yeah. Salisbury is beautiful from above. I love it. Yeah. But the view of the courthouse and just seeing the level of detail in that clock tower, it's stunning. It really is. It's a beautiful building. Now, that said, I was at a fundraiser with the League of Conservation Voters. I'm going to let you tell them to cut down a bunch of trees, and I'm not going to be the one to do that. No, I don't think I don't know what the county's position on that would be. I think a lot of those trees are some beautiful old trees. I wish we could see the courthouse better too. Yeah. There was a point in time where I guess that's how we designed things. And we're really lacking of a civic space in downtown.
That's the point.
We're of want for a civic space,
right.
And this redesign of the front area of the government office building is going to give us a more civic place, outdoor place in downtown. But I still don't think I don't think that's it. I'm a big proponent of finding developing a city square, a town square, and I think we've got, in the redevelopment of Lot 1, I think we've got an opportunity to argue for that, and I'm going to do that.
Right.
It's not something we required. We did require a 25% reduction in impervious surface, but that could be achieved through, green roofs, through various other things. But I'd like to see us have more of a town square.
Right.
I think we need it. I think that's where our New Year's Eve festivals should be, and our Christmas tree should be. And all that being said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't also occupy our streets.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing that we shut down our streets, take over the streets as our civic space, and use it as the city square in essence. But ultimately, I think a larger, expansive space, as we add residential, as we add shopping, as we add to the list of events in downtown Salisbury, which we're going to do, I think it's important to have that sort of civic square.
Purely political, because you don't have an opponent. People might stay home and not vote.
Possibly.
What do you want to do? Why do you want them to get out there and vote for you?
What
are you going to do to try to motivate people?
I want them to get out there, and I think the council candidates are motivating people. I think they're doing a good job of that, and that's their responsibility right now. Normally, these things are led by conflict in the mayoral race, and we don't have conflict in the mayoral race. That being said, I also think the reason we have an uncontested race, I believe, is I've set a clear vision. People knew that this was a vision they could believe in. I think I've proven that I can lead this city, albeit in a different and I don't want to say lower position, but in not a traditional leadership position. But I think the message has been clear leadership for the city, and I think people will recognize that and come out to support it. Will it motivate them to get out of bed on Tuesday, November 3rd? We'll have to see. But I do believe that we have had low turnout historically. I want to see it increased. I'm going to be working in the last few weeks, knocking on doors, getting out there, trying to convince voters to come out and vote in their council races, and of course for mayor. But most importantly in those council races, and not for any particular candidate, but just to say, get out there and vote, be heard. Ultimately, that is one of the big reasons I was in favor of the 5 districts. Be closer to your elected representatives. Be closer to your district representative and get to know them. They're essentially your neighborhood representative. And that's, I think, getting governance and government closer to the people is a better model.
How can people get a hold of you?
My cell phone number is 443-235-6233. And my email address is Jacob, Jacob, @jacobday.com.
And you have a campaign website?
I do, jacobday.com. So people can find out all about me, what I believe and what I think, and where we're headed. They can learn about events coming up. And I think it's worth mentioning that, will this air today?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in the past, we had a candidate forum on October 21st.
Right. We're recording on the day of the candidate forum for the chamber.
So there is a
tonight.
candidate forum, and there have been 2 candidate forums as well. One that Greater Salisbury Committee hosted for their members, and one that the NAACP hosted for the public. And I think those forums are important. I'm not sure how much they drive voter turnout or even the conversation among voters, but they certainly allow us an opportunity to see where the candidates are, how they're framing their perspective on the city, whether or not they have a similar positive vision or whether or not they are seeking to tear down the walls of government. And I think we're fortunate in that we have people right now in this election who, generally speaking, across the board, are very interested in continuing the positivity and seeking positive outcomes for the city, and are very interested in economic growth and jobs.
He's Jake Day. He's our next mayor. He's going to be the youngest mayor we've ever had.
I think that's right.
So we're going to call him the boy mayor from that. Can we call him the boy mayor? They called Frank Morris the boy mayor.
Don't you call somebody else the boy mayor? Let's let them.
And he was 40, and he was the boy mayor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I thought he was about
maybe
my age.
39, or I could be wrong.
Well, I'm significantly younger than.
I'll look that up. And the first one unopposed. So congratulations.
Thank you, Greg.
You take office when?
November 16th.
So we have to wait to call you Mr. Mayor then.
I'd like you to, if you don't mind. And I'll tell you this, on December 4th, and the candidates will learn this soon, on December 4th, the mayor and council and department heads, all of the department heads, will be meeting in a goal setting session, public goal setting session at Salisbury University. So we're going to take the first step, our first action together is going to be to have a public conversation about where we want to head for the next 4 years.
Cool. That's very cool. He's Jacob Day. He's going to be our next mayor here in Salisbury, part of the continuing conversations we're having with candidates for city government. I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.